See, last class we have discussed about the BGT. So today we will discuss about the JFET. All of you go through this slide. So first we will discuss about the field effect transistor. So then under that that will be the JFET. First we will discuss about the FET. So the field effect transistor, it is abbreviated as the FET. See, all of you go through this slide. I will explain in detail. See, this field effect transistor, it is also one of the semiconductor device only, like a BJT, like a PN junction diode transistor, like a transistor. So the field effect transistor is a device in which flow of current through the conducting region is controlled by an electric field. There will be the electric field which we have seen in the transistor and BJT and PN junction diode. So likewise in the FET device, in which the flow of current through the conducting region is controlled by the electric field. It is same as that of the PN junction diode, BJT, then transistor. Hence, the name field effect transistor FET. So the field effect transistor, the name, the reason for this FET is the current through the conducting regions in the controlled by the electric field. So that is the reason it is called as a field effect transistor. As the conductor is only for majority carriers, the FET is said to be a unipolar device. What about the transistor? The transistor, it is called as a bipolar device. The reason is the conduction is due to both electrons and holes. But here, this FET, it is said to be unipolar device, means the conduction is due to the electrons. So that is the reason it is called as a unipolar device. Go through the slide, I will explain in detail. Did you get the material for the unit 4? Did I share the material for unit 4? Anybody? Have you received the material for unit 4? Anybody?
No, ma'am. I don't think so. No.
All of you check in the GCR.
No, ma'am, it's not there.
Okay. Today I will share the material for unit 4. I evaluated, but part B marks part C. That is descriptive, no? That provision is not there. You can see the marks for the part A and part B. For the part C, since it is a descriptive type, there is no provision to enable your marks in the GCR for the part C. So they are trying to find out to enable the mark for the part C also. After that, I will share your marks in the GCR. After getting enable for the part C, I will enable the part A as well as the part B marks. So all the 3 sections marks will be enabled at the same time only. That is the reason I am not enabling for the part A and part B. Once this problem is resolved, means I will enable for all the 3 sections, part A, part B and part C. Okay. See, all of you go through the slide. I will explain in detail. See, based on the construction, the FIT can be classified into two types. As a junction field effect transistor, it is abbreviated as the JFET. And the next type is metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. It is called as a MOSFET. So under the field effect transistor, then we will be having JFET as well as the MOSFET. Today we will discuss about the JFET construction working, as well as we will see the construction and working for the MOSFET also. So the field effect transistor, it is further divided into two types. One is JFET, another one is the MOSFET. So the depending upon the majority carriers, so the JFET has been classified into two types. N-channel JFET with the electrons as the majority carriers. So there will be the terminal in the JFET, it is called as a channel. So if the channel is made by the N type of material, means it is called as a N-channel JFET. So the channel, it is made by using the N type of semiconductor material, means it is called as a N-channel JFET. So in the N-channel JFET with the electrons as the majority carriers. So the next type is P-channel JFET. So the channel is made by using the P type of semiconductor materials. So here the holes are the majority carriers. So in the P-channel JFET, the holes are the majority carriers. So the channel is made by the P type of semiconductor material. So then let us see the N-channel JFET first. We will see the N-channel JFET construction. Next we will see the P-channel JFET construction as well as the characteristics. So first it contains of an N-type bar which is made of silicon. So you see this is the JFET. So there will be the terminals which is called as a source, gate, drain, right? So this is the channel. So this is channel. This one is the channel. So the channel is made by the N type of semiconductor material. So then it is called as the N-channel JFET. So then if you see the N-channel, whatever, whether it is N-channel or P-channel, so there are three main terminals in the JFET. One is source, another one is drain, the third one is gate. So it consists of N-type bar which is made of silicon. N-type bar, where it is? This is the N-type bar. It is made by the N-type semiconductor material. So it consists of N-type bar. This is the N-type bar. This is the N-type bar. This N-type bar is made up of silicon. Then ohmic contacts, that is terminals. The another name for the terminals is called as ohmic contacts. Terminals made at two ends of bar are called the source and drain. This is source, this is drain. So it consists of N-type bar which is made of silicon, ohmic contacts. So ohmic contacts, it is called as a source and drain. Made up of two ends of the bar are called the source and drain. So there are three terminals. What are the three terminals? Source, drain and gate. So let us see the source. So the source is connected at the left hand side of the bar. The drain is connected at the right hand side of the bar. So this is what? N type of material, N type bar. So this gray color, it is showing that that portion is made by using the N type of semiconductor material. So this terminal is connected to the negative pole of the battery. So always the source is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So the electron which are majority carriers, as we know that here this N-channel MOSFET, the electrons are the majority carriers. Electrons which are majority carriers in the N-type bar enter the bar through this terminal. So the source will be connected with the negative terminal of the battery. So the electrons are the majority carriers for the N-channel JFET. So the electrons are entering through this source terminal only. So the electron has to enter into this bar. So this is happening by using this source terminals. So that is given here. The electrons which are majority carriers in the N-type bar enters the bar through this terminal. The next terminal is the drain. This terminal is connected to the positive pole of the battery. The majority carriers leave through this terminal. So as I told you earlier, so the electrons are entering into this source. At the same time, the majority carriers, that is electrons that leaves the bar through this drain terminal. So the next third one is the gate. It is the, since it is a N channel JFET, then so the gate, it is opposite to the material of the channel. So it is made by the P type of semiconductor material. It is heavily doped P type silicon. Is diffused on both sides of the N type silicon bar. Silicon bar by which PN junctions are formed. These layers are joined together and called gates. So what about this? So here, this is made by the P type of semiconductor material. This is also gate. It is also made by the P type of material. So the channel belongs to N type, means automatically the gate. It is made by using the P type of semiconductor material. So these two regions will be connected by using the terminal, and it is making one common terminal. It is named it as a gate. Let us see the operation of the N-channel JFET. So what we are taking, there are two cases. There are three cases here for the operation for the N-channel JFET. So the first case is when VGS is equal to 0. VGS means what? So we have to connect one voltage source between the source and gate. We are making it as a 0 and VDS equal to 0. So then there are two terminals, that is these suffixes are representing the terminals of the JFET. So what about this? D is the drain, S is the source. So there will be the supply between the drain and source, that also we are making into 0. When no voltage is applied between drain and source and gate and source, the thickness of the depletion region around the PN junction is uniform as shown in figure. So it will be uniform since there is no supply between the source, gate and drain. So the thickness of the depletion region around the PN junction is uniform as shown in figure. So that is the reason this depletion regions in the both the ends are same, as well as it is thin, very thin when compared with the other operations. So the next case is, this is the representation, sorry, this is the representation, this is same, both are same. So this diagram and this diagram representing the same only. This is the representation for the N-channel JFET, gate, drain, source. The next case is when VDS equal to 0. So same, we are maintaining same as a first case also, and VGS is decreased from 0. So we are keeping some value, then gradually we are reducing the voltage between the gate and source. So by the time what will happen is, in this case, PN junctions are reverse biased, and hence the thickness of the depletion region increases. So what happens in the last case is the depletion region was very thin. In this case, PN junction was reverse biased, hence the thickness of the depletion region increases. It is opposite to the previous case. So in the previous case, the thickness of the depletion region decreases. Here, what happens is the thickness of the depletion region increases. As VGS is decreased from 0, the reverse bias voltage across the PN junction is increased. Hence, the thickness of depletion region in the channel increases until the two depletion region make the contact with each other. So in this construction, the channel is said to be cut off. So what happens is the voltage between the gate and source is decreasing, so the channel is said to be cut off. The value of VGS, which is required to cut off the channel, is called the cut-off voltage, which is denoted by VC. The third case is, so VGS is 0 and VPS. VPS is increased from 0. So under this category, drain is positive with respect to the source with VGS equal to 0, Now the majority carriers, that is the electrons, flow through the n channel from the source to drain. Therefore, the conventional current ID means what, drain current, flows from drain to source. Because of the resistance of the channel and the applied voltage VDS, there is a gradual increase of positive potential along the channel from source to drain. Thus, the reverse bias voltage across the PN junction increases, and hence the thickness of the depletion regions also increases. So, therefore, the channel in wedge shaped as shown in figure 30. Here, what about channel? It is wedge shaped. Because due to these reasons alone, this is having the wedge shaped. The channel is wedge shaped. So then what happens here is, as the VDS increased, the cross-sectional area of the channel will be reduced. At a certain value of Vp of VDS, the cross-sectional area of B becomes minimum. At this voltage, the channel is said to be pinched off, and the drain voltage Vp is called the pinch-off voltage. So under this time, so the channel is said to be pitch off. So during that time, there will be the voltage. That voltage is called as a pinch off voltage. Then fourth case, what we have taken is when the VGS is negative and VDS is increased, both VDS is negative. We are reversing the supply voltage as well as we are increasing the voltage across drain and source. VDS is increased when the gate is maintained at a negative voltage less than negative cutoff voltage. The reverse voltage across the junction is further increased. Hence, for a negative value of VGS, the current of ID versus VDS is similar to that of VGS equal to 0, but the value of Vp and BV, DG are lower as shown in figure. So this is the figure. So from the curve, what we infer is, it is seen that the above pinch-off voltage at a constant value of VDS, ID increases with an increase of VGS. Hence, JFET is suitable for use as a voltage amplifier similar to transistor amplifier. So what happens here is, they are drawing the graph between the VDS drain to source voltage and the drain current. What happens is, till the pinch-off voltage, the characteristics curve will be linear, then it gets saturated, then it is increasing, ID increasing. Then comparison of JFET and MOSFET. So the first one is, FET operation depends only on the flow of majority carriers, that is holes for P channel, FET and electron same channel FETs. Therefore, they are called unipolar devices. So the conduction, it depends on mainly on the majority carriers. It depends only on the one majority carriers alone. The majority carriers either electrons or hole alone. So the conduction is based on the majority carriers alone. So that is the reason it is called as a unipolar device. So the bipolar transistor, that is BJT operation, depend on the both minority as well as the majority carriers. So that is the reason it is called as a BJT. FET are less noisy than BJTs. FETs exhibits much higher input impedance, which is greater than 100 mega ohm than BJT. FETs are much easier to fabricate and are particularly suitable for ICs because they occupy less space than BJTs. Then the fifth point is, FET is normally less sensitive to temperature. The sixth one is, FET amplifier have less voltage gain and produce more signal distortion except for small signal operation. So these are all the comparisons for the JFET and BJT. So then next we will see the metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. It is abbreviated as the MOSFET. Next one is MOSFET. MOSFET is the common term of insulated gate field effect transistor, IGFET. There are two
Ma'am,
forms
screen
of
is not
MOSFET.
visible.
Huh?
Screen is not visible.
Okay. See, MOSFET is the common term of insulated gate field effect transistor. Another name for the MOSFET is IGFET. There are two forms of MOSFET. One is enhancement MOSFET and depletion MOSFET. So the another name for the MOSFET is IGFET. IGFET is insulated gate field effect transistor. So there are two forms of MOSFET. One is enhancement MOSFET, another one is the depletion MOSFET. So let us see the principle. By applying a transverse electric field across an insulator, then deposited on the semiconducting material, the thickness and hence the resistance of a conducting channel of a semiconducting material can be controlled. This is the basic principle behind the MOSFET. So let us see the enhancement MOSFET. So the construction, if you are saying means, this is the enhancement N-channel enhancement MOSFET. Here also there are based on the material which is used to make the channel, there are two types under the category of the enhancement MOSFET. One is the N-channel, another one is the P-channel. So the channel, it is made by the material of N-type, means it is called as N-channel enhancement MOSFET. So this is the characteristics curve. So the construction, if you are seeing means, so what, this is what, here also source, gate, drain will be there. So the gate is isolated by the silicon dioxide material. That is the reason it is insulated. It is insulated. This is the gate and channel. Both are insulated by using the SiO2 layer, silicon dioxide layer. So the gate is insulated from the channel by this layer. That is the reason it is called as the insulated gate field effect transistor. So there is no contact between the channel and then gate. It is insulated by the silicon dioxide layer. That is the reason it is called as a insulated gate field effect transistor. So then next one is construction. Let us see the construction. The construction of an N-channel enhancement MOSFET is shown in figure. Two highly doped N regions are diffused in a lightly doped substrate of P-type silicon substrate. This is the N-channel. What about this P-type substrate? This region is P-type substrate. This is two N-channels. This is the silicon dioxide layer. This is gate. One N region is called the source and the other is called the drain. So this is N is source. This is the drain. There are two N channels. So one is making contact with the source, another one is making contact with the drain. So one N region is called the source and the other one is called the drain. They are separated by 1 mil. So that is 10 power minus 3 inch. A thin insulating layer of silicon dioxide is grown over the surface of the structure and holes are cut into the oxide layer, allowing contact with the source and drain. So then a thin layer of metal aluminum is formed over the layer of silicon dioxide. This metal layer covers the entire channel region and it forms the gate. The next we will see the gate. So the metal area of the gate in conjunction with the insulating oxide layer of SiO2 and the semiconductor channel forms the parallel plate capacitor. This device is called the insulated gate FET because the insulating layer of silicon dioxide, this layer gives an extremely high input resistance for the MOSFET. So what about the silicon dioxide? It is providing the high input resistance to the MOSFET. So then operation, let us see the operation. If the substrate is grounded and a positive voltage is applied at the gate, the positive charge on G includes an equal negative charge on the substrate side between the source and drain regions. Thus, the electric field is produced between the source and drain regions. So the direction of the electric field is perpendicular to the plate of the capacitor through the axis. So the negative charge of an electron which plates of capacitor through the axis, the negative charge of electrons which are minority carriers in the p-type substrate from the inversion layer. As the positive voltage on the gate increases, the induced negative charge in the semiconductor increases. So then what happens is, hence the conductivity increases and current flows through the source to drain through the induced channel. So there will be the channel between the source and drain. So the current flow that is exists between the source to drain through the induced channel. Thus the drain current is enhanced by the positive gate voltage shown in figure. So this is the characteristics for the MOSFET, enhancement MOSFET. This is the volt ampere means what? VA characteristics of the MOSFET. So it is drawn between the voltage across the drain and source and then drain current. So under this category, they are maintaining the gate to source voltage as constant. So it may be the positive or negative. So then what happens is, doing some value of the VDS, the curve will be linear. After certain time, so the ID gets saturated. There will not be any drastic change in the ID. This is the VA characteristics of the MOSFET. So then So the next, let us see the unit 4. So the unit 4, the first topic is the transducers. All of you go through this slide. The first topic is transducers. So the transducer is a device that converts energy from one form to another. Any device or component that converts an input signal of one form to another output signal of another form. So the transducer, it is mainly used to convert energy from one form to another form. So the device or the component which is used to convert an input signal of one form to another output signals of another form. So there will be the conversion from one form of energy to another form. So it is happening by using the transducers here. That is the reason we are using the transducers for some applications. So then we will see the application in detail one by one. An element or device which receives information in the form of one quantity and converts it to information in the same or another quantity or form. The next point is the device for translating the magnitude of one quantity into another quantity. So or else we can say that energy forms can be mechanical, visual, oral, electrical, thermal, chemical, etc. Then examples to flow. So it may be in the form of mechanical or visual or electrical or thermal, chemical. It may be anything. So it is converted to the another forms. So which is obtained by using the transducers. Used to change information into a form that can be easily transferred, stored, processed, interpreted. So then what are the condition needs to be followed for the transducer is used to change the information into a form that can be easily transferred, then stored, processed, interpreted, etc. So under these categories alone we can use the transducers, which is used to convert one form of energy to another form. So then in briefly, if we are telling the transducer, means it is explained by using this diagram. So the transducers, it is doing the conversion from one form of energy to another form of energy. It is represented in the square box. So then what they are giving here is any measurable quantity they are giving as the input. Then you are getting the output, the energy transformation, it is happening in the transducer. The conversion takes place in the transducer. The output will be anything of out. That is any measurable quantities means some measurable quantities are given here as example. One is any measurable quantity, that is energy, sound, electrical, mechanical, light, chemical, or else pressure, level, density, temperature, pH, flow, temperature, position, distance, mass, time. So these are all the measurable quantities. This measurable quantities is converted into another form of energy, whatever needed for that application. So simply you should not convert this one form of energy to the another form. So the application, so there are many applications which needs the many form of energy. Based on that, we have to convert that one form of energy into the another form of energy. So the output should be used by some applications. So based on that alone, we can do the energy conversion from the one form of energy to the another form of energy. So that process is done by using the transducers. Then, so for the transducer, we are using it for the energy conversion from one form of energy to the another form of energy. Then that output should be used by the application. So there are some basic requirements for the transducers. So that basic requirements need to be satisfied while we are using the output for some applications. So the basic requirements of the transducer should be satisfied while we are using this transducer for the applications. So the first point is linearity. So these are all the basic requirements for the transducer. many points are there. They have summarized and they have given 7 to 8 points. So the first one is the linearity. Linearity of any transducer is the prime requirement. A transducer having linear input-output characteristics is a big plus. Then reliability. A transducer having this quantity produces the same result again and again when the same input signal is applied repeatedly under some environmental conditions. So the example for that environmental conditions are temperature, pressure, and humidity. Then ruggedness. The transducer should be robust in construction. It should be mechanically rugged so that it's capable of withstanding overloads. Then the third point is high signal to noise ratio. The quantity of output signal of the transistor should be good. It should be free from the internal and the external noise. Then the next one is high reliability. Output of the transducer should be highly reliable and stable. It should be precise. It should give the minimum error in the measurement of temperature variations, humidity variations. Then the next point is good dynamic response. A transducer must be capable of respond to either slowly varying the dynamic signals. Its output should be faithful to input when taken as the function of time. The next point is no hysteresis. A good transducer is free from hysteresis. It should not introduce any hysteresis during the measurement when the input signal is varied from its low value to high value, vice versa. The last point is residual deformation. So it means there should no deformation of testing material after the removal of any pressure after a long period of application. So these are the basic requirements for the transducers. So the transducers can be classified as 5 types. One is based on the transduction form used. Then second one is based on the primary and secondary transducers. The third one is passive and active transducers. Then fourth one is analog and digital transducers. Then fifth one is as transducers and inverse transducers. So these are the main types of the transducers. So let us see the 5 types in detail. The first one is introduction of transducers. The transducers are divided into 2 types, active transducers and passive transducers. Third type we are seeing, let us see the third type first. Active transducer. What is meant by active transducer is active transducers does not require an external power supply to provide an output signal. So it does not depend on the external devices. So it does not require an external power also. It does not depend on the external devices also. So active transducer does not require an external power supply to provide an output signal. So the next one is these transducers are usually rely upon magnetic inductance or piezoelectric effects to produce their output signal. So it is mainly depends on the piezoelectric effect. So the active transducers, it is used to convert one form of another form, means there will be the piezoelectric effect. Piezoelectric crystal used for acceleration measurement. As well as we need a piezoelectric crystal also, it is needed for acceleration measurement. Then measurement is converted into output without any other form of energy requirements. They are also called the self-generating type transducers. Another name for the active transducers are self-generating type transducers. The next one is the passive transducers. Passive transducers need an external power supply in order to amplify the input signal and generate an output signal. All passive transducers change one form of or a combination of 3 general circuit parameters: resistance, inductance, or capacitance. Example, potentiometer is used for measurement of pressure, displacement. So by using single transducers, you can do the many operations. So the what example they have given here is potentiometer. By using the potentiometer, you can measure the pressure as well as you can measure the displacement as well as you can measure the position. So for the 4 applications, you can use the single transducers. So that category will come, that type of transducers are coming under the category of passive transducers. All of you go through the slide, I will explain in detail. This is direct and inverse transducers. So the diagram is given for the direct and inverse. Go through the slide, I will explain in detail. So next one is the direct and inverse transducers. So the direct means one form to electrical. Example for this type of direct transducer is the microphone. So here the sound is converted into the electrical quantity. So by using this diagram alone, this sound is converted into the electrical. So what they are given is this is the control system diagram. So here they are giving the RFT as the input. So here they are making the error point. The reference quantity, that is non-electrical, it is converted to the electrical. Then it is given to the transducer. The next it is going to the feed forward network. That means amplifier. So then they are giving on feedback also, that is electrical quantities. So the feedback is the inverse transducers. So it will be happening continuously. It is a simultaneous process as well as the continuous process. So the output will be, the input is the RFT, then output will be the CFT. That is the indication of the measured quantity, that is electrical. That is non-electrical. What is non-electrical? Sound. It is converted into the indication of measured quantity. So that is the electrical. So the sound you can't measure, but output we are converting that into the electric. It is a measurable one. So these processes are happening. This one that is non-electrical to electrical. This is happening by using this control system diagram. Here, there are 3 blocks. By using as well as the feedback is also given. This is called as feedback. We are taking some portion of the output here, and again we are giving it as a input. This is this error point also we are giving. So the input and output both are getting both are getting into this block, and this output of these two values is alone given to the transducers. So feedback in the sense we are taking some portion of the output and again we are giving that as a input. That is called as a feedback. The next what happens is next one is what? Inverse. So the inverse means the electrical into non-electrical, vice versa. This is non-electrical to electrical. So here the inverse means what? Vice versa of the above one. So here the electrical into non-electrical. That is example is loudspeaker. That is electrical. So the output is sound. It is vice versa. Electrical means what? We have to give the supply to the loudspeaker, that is called as electrical. So the while we are giving the supply to the electrical loudspeaker, we will be getting the sound, that is the output. It is a non-electrical quantity. So then what happens here is there are three blocks as same as the previous case, as well as the we are taking some portion of the output here, then it is given to the input as a feedback. So what happens here is R of t, that is the reference input, that is electrical. We are giving the error point will be there. We have to generate the error over here. Then the input and output, the input as well as the feedback is given to the error point. There will be the summation of the input and output. So that the summation of the input and some portion feedback, that is feedback is given to the inverse transducers. Then again this inverse transducer above output is feed to the activator. There is a new term which is called as activator block. So the activator output will be the C of t, that is called as a controlled quantity. It is a non-electrical quantity. So the feedback, which includes the measuring instrument or transducers, there will be the block. It is called as a measuring instrument or transducer. So the feedback is again given to the input. There will be the summation between the input and output and the error point. Next, displacement transducer. All of you go through the slide. Next one is displacement transducer. A displacement transducer is an electromechanical device used to convert mechanical motion or vibration, specifically rectilinear motion, into a variable electrical current, voltage or electric signals and the reverse. So there are many types under the displacement transducer. The first one is capacitive transducer. The second one is inductive. The third one is variable inductance. The fourth one is linear variable differential transformer. It is abbreviated as the LVDT. It is given in your lab. So then in the lab session, then you have to perform the linear variable differential transformer LVDT. There is a experiment for the LVDT. So this LVDT is coming under the category of the displacement transducer. So let us see in detail about the types of displacement transducers in detail. So this is the variation of resistance. All of you go through this slide. These are the different types of displacement transducers. So here what happens in this type of transducers, that is displacement transducer, is there will be the variation in the resistance. So here it is given here. So they are obtaining the energy conversion from to another form by varying the resistance. Here these examples are for varying the resistance. This is what this is the representation for the variation of resistance. RP, this is the N terminal. So this is the wiper, means what? You can vary the resistance here. You can keep it here, keep it by varying this RP value, as well as you are including this load resistance. You can obtain the variation in the resistance under the category of the displacement transducers. So there will be the wiper. So it is used to vary the resistance of the RP. So what happens here is there will be the sliding contact, there will be the wiper arm, there will be the control shaft, there will be the terminals, there will be the carbon. So these arrangements, by using these arrangements alone, we are varying the resistance and we are obtaining the energy conversion from one form to another form. So here what happens is most potentiometers are constructed so that the moving contact can rotate approximately 350 degree. So by varying the wiper point, you can obtain the variation in the resistance. So by adjusting the resistance value, you can obtain the displacement from one place to another place. So it is obtained by using these devices. These devices are used to obtain the variation in the resistance. By varying the resistance value, you can obtain the displacement from one place to another place. Next one is the capacitance transducers. So under the category of the capacitance transducer, there are three major types. First one is variable capacitance pressure gauge, capacitor microphone. Then the third one is dielectric gauge. The first let us see the variable capacitance pressure gauge. So the principle of operation is distance between two parallel plates is varied by an externally applied force. So the application of this variable capacitance pressure gauge is measurement of displacement, measurement of pressure. So the next category is the capacitor microphone. So the principle of operation is sound pressure varies the capacitance between a fixed plate and a movable diaphragm. Applications under this category is speech, music, noise. Then the third type is dielectric gauge under this category. Then you can use this dielectric gauge for liquid level displacement, as well as you can see the variation in the thickness of the material. So here then what principle we are using for the operation is variation in the capacitance by changes in the dielectric. This is the basic principle under the dielectric gauge. The next one is the inductance transducers. So under the inductance transducers, there are 5 types. Major types are given here. 5 major types are given here under the inductance transducers. First one is magnetic circuit transducer. So what principle they are using here is self-inductance or mutual inductance of AC excited coil is varied by changes in the magnetic circuit. So the application, where can we use this magnetic circuit transducers? It is used for displacement of pressure, and it is used to measure the displacement from one place to another place. Then the second category is the reluctance pickup. Here the principle of operation is reluctance of magnetic circuit is varied by changing the position of the iron core of a coil. So where can we apply this reluctance pickup is for pressure measurement, displacement, vibration and position. To measure these parameters, you can apply the reluctance pickup inductance transducer. The third one is the differential transformer. So the principle of operation for this differential transformer is The differential voltage of two secondary windings of a transformer is varied by positioning the magnetic core through an externally applied force. So the application means the pressure. It is used to measure the pressure, force, displacement, position. The fourth one is the eddy current gauge. The principle under the category of the eddy current gauge is inductance of a coil is varied by the proximity of an eddy current plate. So the application, where can we use this eddy current gauges for displacement thickness? Then the fifth one is the magnetostriction gauge. So the principle of operation for the magnetostatic gauges, magnetic properties are varied by the pressure and stress. Then where can we use this magnetostatic gauges for force, pressure and sound? So the transducers, let us conclude the transducer type means electromagnetic transducer, electrochemical transducer, electromechanical transducer, electro-acoustic transducer, photoelectric transducer, electrostatic transducer, thermoelectric transducers, radio-acoustic transducers. These are the types that is coming under the transducer types. So types and application. Let us see the types and application. Some common transducers and the common uses. If you see means common, so that we have seen the many types of transducers. So then we will see we will conclude that means what are the types is thermistor, thermocouple temperature. So for these two transducers, the example is motors. Then LDRs, LEDs, optocoupler, speaker, microphone, magnetic pickup, strain gauge, Hall effect, splitter effect device, piezoelectric effect, flame or smoke, data transfer, acoustic sound, stylus, vibration, tension, magnetism, temperatures. So these are all the overall applications of the transducers. So then we will see, then this is the summary, let us summarize the transducers type means the types, what are the types mainly we are using for many applications is then what are the input and what are the output we are getting from the we are getting from this particular transducer is tabulated here. So for the first one is the thermistor. So the input for the thermistor is the heat. What output we can obtain as the output is change in resistance. Next one is torch battery. Here the input is chemical. The output is EMF, induced EMF. Then the piezo effect device. So for the piezo effect device, the input is change in applied force. The output is EMF. Next one is Hall effect device. So the Hall effect device, the input here is magnetic field, output is EMF. Next important one is thermocouple. So in the thermocouple, the input is heat, output is EMF. The next one is the magnetic pickup cartridge. See here the input is change in displacement, so the output is EMF. Next one is speaker. So the input is current, output is sound wave. Next one is LED. The input is current, output is light. Next optocoupler. Input is current, output is current. Next one is strain gauge. The strain gauge also we are going to do it in the lab also. So in the strain gauge, the input is physical force, the output is change in resistance. So this experiment is also included in the lab also. LVDT and strain gauge we are planning to perform in the lab also. The next one is the phototransistor. So the input is changes light intensity, the output is change in current. Next LDR, light dependent resistor. LDR means what? Light dependent resistor, it is abbreviated as the LDR. So the input is change in light intensity, the output is change in resistance. So next one is the microphone. So here the input is sound wave, the output is EMF. Then Peltier effect device. So here the input is change in current, the output is change in temperature. Next one is Seebeck effect device. So the change in temperature is converted into the change in EMF. So this is the principle of energy transformation for the capacitive transducers. I'll if you go through this slide, I will explain in detail. See here in the capacitive transducers, voltage between plates. There are two plates. I'll have to see the diagram. There are two plates here. We are connecting the two plates by using the wire. This is the A. Then the gap between the two A plates is represented by the small d. So here this A plate, that is upper plate, it is having the positive charges. Then the lower plate, it is having the negative charges. The distance, the voltage difference between the two plates are given by the VAB. So this is the equivalent representation for the A diagram. So what about this? As I told you earlier, so the A plate, it is having the positive charges. Then the bottom A plate is having the negative charges. There will be the gap between the two plates, which is denoted by the VAB. So here the electrons are moving from the upper plate to lower plate. It is given by there will be the attraction between the two plates since both are charged. Both are charged. What opposite charges are placed in the two plates, as well as it is separated by some distance. So there will be the interaction between the two plates. The two plates interactions are given by the lines. And also these lines are represent that is attraction direction are given here by the arrowhead. So E is the electric field which is available between the two plates. So the VAB, as we have studied earlier, VAB is given by ED. D means what? Distance between the two plates. E is the electric field which is generated in between the two plates. So as we told earlier, that is as we know the general expression for the capacitor, C is equal to Q by V. That is equal to Q divided by V expression just now we have obtained from the expression which is denoted by the ED. So the Q, the general expression for the charge is given by epsilon naught A. The Q is the plate charge, epsilon is the permittivity of the dielectric, A is the area of plates, D is the distance between the plates. Already you have studied in your schoolings also. Have you studied these expressions in your schoolings? So you have
Yes,
studied in
ma'am.
the physics. Yes. This is very simple expression. Okay, already you have studied in your schoolings also. I think so. Next,
Yes, ma'am.
capacitive transducers. All of you go through the slide. I'll explain in detail. See the capacitive transducers, the diagram is given here. There will be the two electrodes. So the charge increases the closer the electrode gets to the primary electrode. So what happens if the two plates are closer to each other means charge increases the closer the electric gets to the primary electrode. This is happening when the distance between the two electrodes are less. So the two electrodes are given here. You can keep the many electrodes here. That is, there should be the two electrodes. There should be the distance between the two electrodes. Then only the electric field will be inferred in between the two electrodes since both are positively charged. So the capacitive transducers use here changing capacitive reactance within the transducer to produce a proportional output. This is the role of the capacitive transducers. Use a charging capacitive reactance within the transducer to produce a proportional output. So when are you having the next class? Are you having next class today or free?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Take care.
When are you having?
Just after this.
9 o'clock or what?
Ma'am, 11 o'clock.
So this class is up to what time?
10:30.
Or 10:55?
10:30.
No, 10:40. Don't, unless you see the timetable.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
till 10:40.
Till 10:40 only. So the class is till 10:40. The typical capacitive transducers is used as a proximity device, which one electrode charged and the other affected as it approaches in close proximity. The surrounding air is used as a dielectric to produce a reactance that is proportional to the distance between the two electrodes of the capacitor. This is the basic concept behind the capacitive transducers. Next, let us see the inductive transducers. All of you go through the slide. I will explain in detail. So if you let us see the inductive transducers work on the principle of inductance change due to any appreciable change in the quantity to be measured. That is measured. So the LVDT is the best example for the inductive transducers. For example, LVDT. So what happens here is a kind of inductive transducers. It measures displacement in terms of voltage. So what happens in the LVDT is it measures the displacement in terms of voltage. The difference between its two secondary voltages. Difference between voltages in the sense means voltage in the sense potential difference. So the difference between two secondary voltages. There will be the two secondary voltages here. So the difference between the two secondary voltages will be present as the output of the LVDT. Here the input is the displacement. So the displacement is the one form of energy that is converted to the another form. Another form is nothing but the voltage. The voltage is nothing but the difference between it two secondary voltages. The secondary voltages are nothing but the result of induction due to the flux change in the secondary coil with the displacement of the iron bar. So the displacement, how can we obtaining this displacement is by the change in position of the iron bar. There will be the iron bar. So because of the inductive property, there will be the displacement in the position of the iron bar. So the displacement of this iron bar is converted into the voltage. So the voltage is nothing but the difference between two secondary voltages. So mainly the LVDT is used to convert the displacement to the voltage. Always anyway, LVDT discussed here briefly to explain the principle of inductive transducers. The displacement is how can we obtaining this displacement here in the LVDT is by the inductive property. Because of the inductive property, there is a displacement in the LVDT. The displacement is converted to the voltage. That is the electrical quantity. The displacement is the non-electrical quantity. Voltage is the electrical quantity. This is the basic diagram for the LVDT. What are the components are there here? Input we are giving. There is a moving core. There is a secondary as well as the primary. So the secondary, it is split into two. So one portion is placed in the upper portion of the moving core. Another portion is placed in the bottom of the moving core. So the in between the upper and the lower windings, there will be the winding. It is called as a primary winding. So the primary winding is always connected with the input voltage. So the secondary of the LVDT is connected to the voltmeter. So the voltage difference between the two secondary coils are measured by using one voltmeter here. So this displacement in the primary side is converted to the converted as a voltage. So it is measured by using the voltmeter. The displacement is converted to the voltage. So the displacement is the non-electrical quantity, the voltage is the electrical quantity. This voltage is nothing but the potential difference between the two secondary coils of the LVDT. So the displacement that is placed in the primary. So how can we obtaining this displacement is by using the inductive nature of the coil. All of you go through this slide. See, the remaining topics we will discuss in the next class.